Alright, you're welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to show you how to make the top that you've seen on the thumbnail, and you can see I made it to be very neat. You can almost wear the front, the inside as the outside, and nobody will be able to tell the difference. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video. Stay tuned. Alright, you're welcome to the video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to draft a bodice, as you would expect, because this is the top half of the body. So let's start doing that. I'm going to draft on my paper and transfer onto my fabric. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw all my vertical lines. These are the lines that come from the shoulder going down. Like most of the measurements that have length attached to them. So your dress length, under bust length, and all of that are your vertical measurements. So I'm going to draw the first line for my shoulder. That's the first line for my shoulder, and then I'm going to place my vertical measurements. So in this case, I'm going to place my under bust length. The under bust length, that's the distance from the shoulder to the under bust, is 14. I'm going to place that there. To find where to place my bust, I'm going to do 14 minus 4. And that's going to tell me where to place my bust measurement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. So I'm going to place this. Then the top length 19. I'm going to make a mark over here. Alright. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to start placing our horizontal measurements. So these are measurements that go around the body, like the bust and all of that. So but before we start placing the bust, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place our shoulder measurement. Our shoulder measurement is 14 divided by 2 is 7 inches. So I'm going to make a mark at 7 inches here. My bust measurement is 35 divided by 4. Okay, that's the bust measurements divided by 4. 35 divided by 4 is 8.75. So I'm going to make a mark at 8.75 here. I'm going to place my under bust round at my under bust length. That's the distance. That's the circumference around the body, just under the bust. So the under bust round is 28 divided by 4 is 7. I'm going to place 7 here, and I'm also going to place 7 at the end of the top. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the shoulder measurements, where we placed the shoulder divided by 2. So at this point here, where we place the shoulder, we're going to come 1 inch under that point, and we're going to make a mark there. That is the slope for the shoulder. The next thing I'm going to do is, let's connect these lines together. The next thing I'm going to place is my armhole. So the formula for finding your armhole is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. So 35 divided by 6 plus 1.5 is 7.3. Alright, I'm going to just make a mark at around 7.5. With that, we have gotten the main bodice block. Now let's start creating the effects that we have at the neck. Alright, so the next step is to start creating the top part. Now the first thing I want you to do is, while you're taking the measurement, you need to take the distance from your shoulder to wherever you want that cut to be. So the cut that demarcates the two parts from that top part that we have, from the top part that we have forming that triangle over there. You have to decide how many you want that to be, starting from your shoulder coming down. So in this case, I want mine to be 7. Okay, so I'm going to place it on the shoulder line, as you can see there, and at 7 inches I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to rule the line across this point. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slight curve. So you see here, I still want here to be my armhole, but for most of it, I want this 7 to be here, but I want it to slowly taper down, and that's what you're going to try to do. So after you've gotten the first line, you're going to slowly, very slowly taper down towards the armhole, towards the end here. So check this out. Alright, so that's what I want you to do. So you see, for most of here, it was the same, but once it started coming towards the armhole, I tapered it down. So that's what I want you to do. The next thing I want you to do is we're going to need to place our neckline width and neckline depth. So you can see the neckline on this, that's the top part, is very close to the neck. So we need something that hugs the neck a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a neckline depth of 2.5, and you're going to place a neckline width of 2.5. Alright. With that, we have created the neckline. I'm going to add my 1/2 inch allowance all the way so that you don't forget. So that's when we're sewing, we'll sew here. The top part I just marked now is my allowance at the shoulder at the top, so that I don't leave it out, so that you don't leave it out. Now the next thing we're going to do is it's time to create that triangle we have in front. Now the next thing I want you to do is I want you to come to the shoulder over here, and I want you to make a mark at 2 inches at the shoulder. So 2 inches here, and at the end here I want you to make a mark at 1.5 inches. Alright, you see that? From here to here 1.5, from the neckline in 2 inches. And with that, we have created the part that would need we have created that triangle effect for the top part. So this is the crepe I'm working with. You know, it has very little stretch, but it's not so very little. In fact, matter of fact, if I want to even see it even has stretch, this doesn't have any stretch, but this is what I'm using. Yeah, so because I'm using that, I'm going to use an interfacing on it to give it some form. We have a little more work to do, but it's not that much. What you are going to do is you are going to come to your bottom half, so not the top half, the bottom half, and you are going to place your bust point to bust point. So for me, the bust point to bust point, that's the distance between the nipples, is 7 inches. Sorry, 7 inches divided by 2 is 3.5. 3.5 plus 1/2 inch allowance for sewing is 4 inches. So I'm going to place, this is the bust point, I'm placing 4 inches everywhere here, and also at the top here. Okay, and then I'm going to connect them together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. So you see at the top here, at this top part here, I'm going to place 1/2 inch. So you see this midline here, I'm going to place 1/2 inch on this midline. I'll mark the beginning of 1/2 inch, and I'm going to mark the end of 1/2 inch. So from the line, 1/2 inch to the left, 1/2 inch to the right. I'm going to come to the bottom here. I'm going to make a mark keep 1 inch in the center, make a mark at the top of your tape, make a mark at the bottom, do the same thing at the end, 1 inch here, mark at 2 inches. So that means from the center line we have 1 inch of allowance to the left, 1 inch of allowance to the right, and the same thing for the bottom. It's time to pay back some allowances. Now, because of this cut, we made this cut so that what we've just done now is we've created a dart so that it sits smoothly on the bust. So to pay back this cut that we've made on the side, you're going to need to pay it back a certain way. So first of all, we've taken out 1 inch from the top. So this half is 1, so that's 1 inch. To sew it back, when we sew it back, we're going to lose another 1 inch. So this 1 inch here we've cut out. When we're sewing it back, we're going to sew 1/2 inch everywhere here. So we're still going to lose 1/2 inch from here and 1/2 inch from here. Meaning, because of this 1 inch, to be able to pay for what we've taken out and pay for for sewing it back, we're going to need 2 inches. So on this end here, place 2 inches. Okay, over here we took out 2 inches, but to join it back we'll need an extra 1 inch. So down here you're going to pay 3 inches and pay 3 inches. Let me show you something. Let me show you. You see it. You see, if I'll crop in when I'm editing this so that you see. It's almost as if look at it. Look at this is the edge. Look at where I marked 2 inches. I told you to mark 2 inches. You see, I did not use tape. And where I said 3 inches is 3 inches is. Look at, zoom in until it's even pixelated. Look at, back right there. I did it without tape first. I'm just so that people will know that I'm not playing with anybody. Okay, join this, and then I'm going to keep a regular allowance of 1 inch. So this 1 inch here is what will be left after I'm done sewing. So when I'm done sewing, this is the 1 inch that would hang freely inside. So I can go ahead and cut this out. There are other allowances you need to keep, but we'll tackle them later. There's a little thing here and a little thing there, a little to the left, a little to the right. So let's cut this out. Now when you're cutting this out, what you're going to do, we've kept 1/2 inch of allowance here at the bottom, so you can cut here normally. Okay, up here I'm going to cut here like so. So this is the center of the front, right? I'm going to cut here exactly like so, and we're allowed to cut here out. Now when you're transferring this pattern onto your fabric, because of, you see this top triangle here, and we're trying to join here back to here, we're going to lose 1/2 inch. So in order to avoid us losing 1/2 inch when we're trying to join this bottom part, this center of the front to the top triangle, when you're cutting this on your fabric, make sure you place do plus 1/2 inch at the top. That will serve as your sewing allowance, so don't forget. Okay, don't forget. You can write it down the way I'm writing it so that you don't forget that. So now cut out the neck. Okay, now watch as I'm cutting this. When I'm cutting this now, I'm going to keep 1/2 inch on this side. Now this is sewing allowance. This is what we're going to use by the time we're turning this place with the lining that we'll cut for it. That's what will be consumed. And as well on the bottom, because we're joining here back to here, we're going to need plus 1/2 inch. Don't forget. Okay, you see that? And then the next thing I'm going to do is on this side over here, it's time to cut it out. The only place where we don't need to add any allowance here. I'm going to show you how to cut this now. Keep this aside. Cut the bottom part here normally, because we've added 1/2 inch already. Cut this part here to be the same, because we've made provision for that already. When we are cutting up now, okay, now because I'm not adding anything on top of this side here, it's fine. I can add the 1/2 inch I need, because we're going to join these bust parts together, so we need this one and this one to be the same length at the end of the day. So if we're adding 1/2 inch here, we need to also add 1/2 inch here. If not, this one will end up being shorter than this. So we're going to add that 1/2 inch now. Okay, and then cut here the same. So on this one, I'm not writing anything because I don't need to add any 1/2 inch because I've added it already. So these lines we made, so the shoulder, bust, under bust length, and the top length, simply just extend it so that we don't need to look for them all again. We're going to use the same measurements for the back. Alright, so now time to draft the back. First thing we're going to do is you want you to keep 1 inch for your zipper. There's a way I'm going to show you. We're going to plant our zipper in, so you don't need a lot of bulk. 1 inch for your zipper allowance is okay. Then I'm not going to go ahead to do everything I did when I was drafting the initial bodice for the front. Alright? Okay, so after we have drafted the main bodice block, I want you to pick up your neck. Now, I looked for the back of this particular design, couldn't find it, so I'm going to just make mine. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to make a mark at the neckline width. Remember I told you the width has to stay the same. The depth is not going to be the same, but the depth is not going to be the same, but the width has to be the same. So make a mark at the, you can see the points I'm making the mark, the beginning, the end, and the neckline width. And then you can keep this away. Alright, after you've done that, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to draw a line from here to here first of all. I want us to get a basic idea of what the front is looking like. Another thing, remember the neckline width, we marked it. For the neckline depth at the back, make a mark at 1 inch from the 1/2 inch allowance point. So you come 1 inch down, and then then you make a curve. Alright, so I'm going to place ½ inch for my allowance at the shoulder already. And then remember this bottom part here where we marked out our line at 7 inches. So remember that 7-inch line. I want you to draw it again. So from the ½ inch line, make a mark at 7 inches. That's the shoulder to where we wanted the cut to be. Alright, and then remember we gently tapered out at the end. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Alright, and then after we have done that, I can bring this line down here, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a curve here. Alright, so this is how the back is going to be. The back is going to curve into here, and it's going to curve back out. So that's how I want the design to be. What I'm going to do is towards the end, remember when we're cutting the side, that's the armhole side of the front, we added ½ inch at the top. Because of that, I'm going to add just a little bit at the top here. Just at the end, I'm going to add just a little over here. I don't need it everywhere. So just so that the front and the back corresponds, I'm going to curve here up a bit so that the front and the back corresponds, we meet on the exact point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place a dart at the back. So at the back, I want you to come to the shoulder line. So you see this line we have here, make a mark at 8 inches. I want you to come from the center, not from the zipper allowance, from the black line. Make a mark at 4 inches everywhere. This is going to be our dart at the back, but for this dart we're not cutting it out. I want to just show you where it will start and where it would stop. Okay, so I'm going to have a little 1 inch dart at the back. We'll just pinch it up, take away half at the bottom, taper out to nothing. So at the end of the day we'll consume 1 inch here. So first of all, we pay for that 1 inch that we will need to take out for this dart now when we're sewing. 1 inch here, just a bit under 1 inch here. No, don't add anything at the top. And then I want you to connect bottom to here and taper out to nothing. Sorry. Alright, and then after we've done that, next thing I want you to do is just place 1 inch allowance on the side. That's all we're going to need for the back. And then ½ inch of allowance at the bottom, like we did on the front. And we're pretty much done with the back. The back doesn't really have a lot, so I'm going to cut it out.